months of my deep hands-on test, Nothing's latest earbuds. Do you want the same thing I did? Which one is actually worth buying? If you can't decide between these models, by the end of this video you will know exactly where to put your money. This must be the most specific and brutally honest long-term review you will find online. Hello friends, this is Jessie. I will share my experience about their design, sound, ANC, core performance, latency, and features. For those short on time, here's the quick takeaway. Even after a full year on the market, the Pro 2 is still the one to get. But if you are an iPhone user, stay away from it. For you, it's just a basic tool. If you're curious about how it stacks up against other same price options like the Earphone Air Pro 4, let me know in the comments. Alright, let's dive in, and I have to say, Nothing is really a doctor with miracle here. They somehow cured my long-standing bass head syndrome. Good one, Nothing. So here's the story. If you've watched my videos before, you probably know that although I do stay objective when describing sound quality, my personal style always leans bass head and into that atmosphere when relaxed. That's been my thing for over 20 years until I tested the Nothing Pro 2. The bass hit powerfully and feels so good. But after just one day, I suddenly found, okay, I have had enough. My ears were done. Alright, back to the topic. Let's start with a quick look at the design. From the packaging, all four modes look pretty similar. The Pro 2 and 2 Plus both support LDAC and have that little high-res gold badge, which doesn't make much sense. So, why is the 2A smaller? Cost cutting really gets to this point. I mean, is that tiny bit of material worth $20? The charging cases all have a matte finish, but unfortunately masters to pick up fingerprints. All have a nice premium feel, though the white one is a bit more plasticky. Personally, I love the design of the Pro 2. All of them have that wheel in the corner, but only in the Pro 2s actually makes sense. You can adjust volume or control playback with it. And I will show you more in the features section. It's a pretty distinctive design, but sadly, they didn't carry it forward. I guess it's because of the cost and latency issues. What a pity. On the second generation models, the wheels are just decorative, and they add a lanyard hole. But honestly, if I tie it up, how can the wheels wheel anyway? One more oddball detail, the 2A is the only one that puts the pairing button on the outside. Before I checked that, I thought, maybe that's to save space for a bigger battery. But nope, its battery life is actually the worst of the bunch. The change makes zero sense. I give the design scores. About the fit. The earbud designs are all quite similar. Rounded shells that hug the ears without giving you that intrusive and uncomfortable feeling. Its praise coming from a smaller canal. Out of the bunch, the 2A is the lightest. Since the nozzle nose is on the shorter side, you may need to use slightly larger ear tips. Otherwise, you can feel a bit loose. Also, swapping tips is no easy take. It took me 5 minutes the first time I tried, and I didn't get tired until around maybe 5 hours of continuous wear. Fit scores is here. Now onto sound quality, and here's the verdict right away. You get what you pay for. Pro 2, this is a sound with precise low-end placement, well-balanced overall, but one that simply cannot leave LDAC, and also one you shouldn't listen to for a long time. Looking at the curve, the Pro 2's bass gain is boosted by about 12 dB, even heavier than the Harman's target, yet still the lowest among these four models. That should give you some idea of just how much head-thumping bass I've been dealing with over the past few months of testing. The bass digs deep, and you can feel the drum hit and then spread out with a fairly wide dispersion, creating a strong sense of atmosphere. In LDAC mode, drum hits become more focused and powerful, cutting down a bit of that boom fatigue. Vocals sit fairly close to the ear, and with strong imaging, you can actually sense the shape of the singer's mouth. The 2000 to 5000 lift gives voice a useful brightness, which is rare for something with such a thick low-end background. They don't get sticky or muddy either. For example, when playing You're Not Alone, the vocals are silky smooth with well-controlled sibilance, and the drums groove right alongside the voice. In LDAC mode, micro details pop more. Even the sound of air moving is captured, making sounds like R&B a real treat. Treble rolls off naturally, while there is a little lift in the very top end. Extension feels limited, and with the bass being so dominant, high-frequency instruments do get a bit suppressed, so the sound isn't special bright. In LDAC mode, with bass delivered more cleanly, the whole sound opens up and treble instrument comes through better. Overall, I'd rate it 5 out of 10 in AAC, but 7 out of 10 in LDAC. So, iPhone users, keep your distance. Some friends say, just EQ it, no need for LDAC. But honestly, EQ can save a dove, but it will never turn it into a giant. And for the sake of your ears, don't listen for too long. The bass attack here is so intense. 2 plus, the first impression is that the bass is loose and lack punch. A hazy overall presentation that even LDAC can't rescue. Looking at the curve, the low end is boosted by about 15 dB, more than enough to be head boomy. Beyond that, it doesn't dig deep. Imagine a floor covered in calf-high cotton. You jump on it, and before hitting the ground, the bounce just stops. That's the kind of bass we are dealing with here. Low elasticity, low sense of impact like dorn dorn. Your head is already full of kick drums and bass. Yet there is zero slam power. In LDAC mode, the spread of the kick drum feels more precise. But since this bass relies so heavily on quantity, the low-end presence actually ends up feeling reduced. Vocals sit at a moderate distance, around 2000 Hz. The gain peaks, giving the voice some tight feeling. They are not super intimate, and the heavy low-end atmosphere gives them a warm tilt. It doesn't get to the point of being muddy. For example, listen to what I call JESSY Butterfly. His voice isn't as clean as it is. It's been boomed too much, and the bass line sits a bit too forward. Switch to LDAC. The vocals clean up nicely with noticeable improvement. The treble are relatively bright, but instrument extension is limited by the driver's resolution. Present, but nothing spectacular. Also, the separation between low-end and treble instrument is too wide. This makes them disconnected. With LDAC, treble detail fills in, electric guitar lines emerge, and the overall sound becomes more cohesive. In J-pop or electronic tracks, treble instrument can be hard to distinguish. Overall, I'd rate it 4 out of 10 in AAC and 6 out of 10 in LDAC. Bus 2 and 2A, as I said before, you get what you pay for. The Bus 2 are also head booming in the bass, but their treble rolls off even earlier than others, so the entire sound becomes a thick blur. The 2A delivers the most bass quality of all 4, but oddly cuts a bit in the 100 to 200 Hz range. The result is a bass hit that stamps you in the face and then stops. It's really not unreasonable when tuning bass, rich in quantity but with zero atmosphere. Resolution is so underwhelming, it doesn't even match the price tag. And both with only AAC support, it's really a torture for the ears. Both models get 3 out of 10 overall. Here is the final scores. As for the ANC, I tested both active and passive noise cancellation frequency response curves. By comparing the ANC curve with the noise curve, you can get a pretty clear number of how much noise each bus actually reduces. Starting with the Pro 2, the official brand claim is a maximum depth of negative 50 decibels, but in reality, it only hits around negative 43 decibels. Most of the work is in the low end, In actual use, it does a good job when suppressing air conditioner hum, engine noise, and subway rumble. However, sounds like keyboard clicks and car speaker actually stand out more. It also has the strongest ear pressure among the four. Without music playing, it's easy to start feeling dizzy and strained. The 2 Plus and Buds 2, they have different official ANC depth specs, but performs almost the same in practice. Low frequency cancellation is decent, but due to algorithm limitations, fast-changing sounds in the mids and highs are much harder to eliminate. Then, there is what just funny. Not only does it introduce reverse noise amplification at the extreme low end, but its ANC almost entirely depends on passive. It means it's all about how tight the tips are. You get about the same effect as wearing a pair of bad foam earplugs. But hey, they didn't lie. At 3000 Hz, it does hit negative 42 decibel. No skills, but honest. Respect. In daily use, it's pretty much useless. Here is the ANC score. For the battery life and latency, the 2 Plus really lives up to the Plus. Specs absolutely maxed out. This is currently the longest lasting pair of earbuds I've tested. How about the real world test results? Well, I tested. Okay, I couldn't finish the test because after a whole day, the battery still wasn't dead. Full marks, straight up. The 2A, on the other hand, was surprisingly underwhelming in battery life, given its target, clearly aimed at people who treat earbuds as a backup tool and don't want to invest too much. I expected it to at least have enough battery life to earn the title tool. Sadly, nope. Latency numbers. Because of time, I didn't get into detail here, but I will post the full measurement in the comments once I've compiled them. If you need them, leave a comment or subscribe for updates. Here is the battery score. As for call quality, I tested all both in a quiet room and in wind noise environment. Pro 2 and 2 Plus were stable across both, but 2A and Buds 2 met heavy distortion and frequent dropouts. Here is the records. Try it. Okay, this is just testing call quality in this quiet room. How do you feel the sound? Is it clear and can you find out it's me? And this is just testing call quality with slow noise. How do you feel the sound? Is it clear and can you find out it's me? This is just the testing call quality in this quiet room. How do you feel the sound? Is it clear and can you find out it's me? And this is just the testing call quality with slow noise. How do you feel the sound? Is it clear and can you find out it's me? This is JESSY testing call quality in this quiet room. How do you feel the sound? Is it clear and can you find out it's me? And this is JESSY testing call quality with slow noise. How do you feel the sound? Is it clear and can you find out it's me? This is JESSY testing call quality in this quiet room. How do you feel the sound? Is it clear and can you find out it's me? And this is JESSY testing call quality with slow noise. How do you feel the sound? Is it clear and can you find out it's me? Let's talk about the app experience. The Nothing X app UI is clean, and if multiple devices connected, it shows all of them right on the top, making switching quick and easy. But while the design is nice, the functionality is honestly not that strong. Special audio works fine for movies, but I wouldn't recommend it for music. Most songs aren't mixed for it, so it ends up sounding messy. In earbud controls, you can select an earbud individually and charging case and tracking settings. Nice and intuitive, but it can't tell the charging case battery. This leads that when I scroll the wheel and suddenly it stops responding. I can never find it's a battery issue. Also, the charging case control reflection has about a 1 second delay. EQ adjustment is a simple 3-band system. It looks like you can raise or lower each band independently, but in reality, the bands influence each other a lot. For example, if you slightly reduce the bass to -1, suddenly the green in the vocals becomes much more noticeable. Changes like that. And then there's outro bass. I even have no idea what to say. Did they think the bass still wasn't enough? They even give you 5 levels to choose from. I tried level 5 and my goodness, I almost unlocked my hidden talent for popping. Okay, final verdict is here. In overall quality scores, it's Pro 2 with 7, and then 2 Plus with 6.8, and then Plus 2 with 5.5, and the last 2A with 4.8. But taking price into account, my ideal price performance ranking are like this. 2A is more valuable for money, but actually buds like Suncor P30i deserves more attention. Pro 2 is for those who want a punchy, immersive sound and well-rounded performance. Even a year after launch, it's still a solid value at its price. 2 Plus is perfect for anyone who needs long hours of use. Its endurance, sound quality, and core performance are all well balanced. Among all the earbuds I've tested so far, Pro 2 scores high in quality. If you've got other models you want me to compare them with, drop a comment, I'll reply directly or bump them up the testing schedule. Alright, that's wrap up today's Nothing Bucket review. Smash that like button to comfort my dizzy brain after the bass beatdown. See you in the next video. Good one, Jessie. Next Blolic, I command you, don't OnePlus Buds 4.